Hi, I'll be right back.
Hi, Becky.
Hi, how are you guys doing? How are you feeling, Kristen?
I am feeling a lot better today, just kind of still very congested. So I'm grateful for Zoom right now.
Yeah, that does make a big difference.
Yeah.
Very-
So a lot better today, though. A lot better.
That's fabulous. Is Miriam still there? Hi, Miriam. No, she went.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, I am trying to get an email out to everybody, but Carrie did accept the job
Great.
and worked through a lot of the details. She said she used to commute half an hour. She knows what, an hour is more, but she's definitely willing and really excited about this job. So
Great.
she wants
All
to
right.
do. Yeah.
All right. It's a good thing.
Yeah, a good way to start anyway, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully all is good.
Hi, T.
Now, are people, yeah, just want to make sure. Okay. Oh, that's good. I'll be right back.
Hello.
Hi, Rita.
How are you doing?
I'm doing so much better today. Still super
Yeah.
congested, but
But it's not the dreaded COVID.
it's not. No, it's interesting because I have every single symptom.
Yeah.
But no, I'm doing good. I'm just staying away because even I don't want anyone to have
Yeah.
even the normal boring cold,
Yeah. Well, I had a normal boring cold that lasted for 3 weeks. So
That's horrible.
totally, yeah. And I got COVID tested, but normal boring colds can be pretty nasty too. So
Yeah. But I'm making a comeback here. So
that's good. What a crazy time, huh?
yeah, it is the season in general. It's just exacerbated now. So
Yeah.
and I keep saying, one of us gets sick, and if we come in, the whole team could
Oh,
just
yeah.
drop. So I'm keeping everybody away from me.
It
So,
used to drive me crazy at my job when people came to work sick. I said, please don't come to work sick. You're going to make
That's
everybody
right.
else sick, and then we're all unproductive.
That's
So
right. Yeah. So everything's coming along anyway. So we're good.
good.
We're good.
Good. Okay, so we don't have Melissa here. Got to get my, well, it is 5:45. No word from Melissa that she's going to be late or anything, Becky, huh?
No, I asked her a question on something else about 15 minutes ago, and she
Okay.
answered.
All right.
So must be en route.
Okay. Is today one of her days in Amherst?
Yeah,
Oh,
I believe it is. Hmm. That's an email. I should text her. Is Eric? Eric's not.
Eric is here. Yep.
You have a
Here.
quorum.
Let's just wait another minute and then,
Okay. I'm texting her.
okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi, Michael.
Hey,
There she is. Hi, Melissa. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I'll just quickly review the agenda. I don't think we have anything unanticipated, and Becky, you can let me know if there's anything that wasn't on the agenda that needed to be added.
Rita, the only thing was a late addition to the agenda on the 6:35 discussion of closing town hall to the public was and updates to the COVID-19 policy.
Okay, but that's on the printed one, so that was,
Yeah,
okay.
got it.
Just not on the original.
Right.
The original one. Okay, great. So we're first gonna have public comment, then hear from Acting Chief Burgess about just an update and new appointment. And then we're going to take about 35 minutes. And I know a number of board representatives are coming to talk about the municipal vulnerability grant this evening. Then, as Becky mentioned, we're going to talk about possibility of closing town hall to the public and updates to our COVID-19 policy, 2 minutes. We have some more recent information regarding the killing of the geese down at Lake Wyola, and want to talk about response to the USDA. We have a land use clerk appointment and then town administrator updates. So why don't we?
Rita, can I hop in for a second? I have a hard stop about 7:30.
Okay.
Adjust something from Saturday morning since we have that meeting.
Okay.
So just,
Okay.
I'll duck out if you guys aren't finished, just to let you know.
Yeah. We'll have that as our goal, Melissa, to finish by then. Okay, so I want to open it up for public comments. If you would use the raise hand feature, that would be great. If there is a public comment. So I see 2 so far. Michael, I think you were first, and then Miriam.
Cool. I will try to be fast, since it looks like there's 2 minutes for public comment in total.
I think we can stretch it to 3.
Okay. These are both just follow-ups from the planning board. I sent emails to you guys, but just to articulate it in real life. One was the associate member bylaw that town meeting passed this past year. We felt that the Attorney General got it wrong, and Jeff consulted with Don McNichol and then Bob Ritchie, who also is a zoning attorney, retired. And they both agreed that they thought the AG got it wrong. And Donna's recommendation was that we ask our local legislators to file legislation to give associate members of planning boards the same rights and responsibilities of associate members of the ZBAs. So that would be something we wanted to discuss with you, and Jeff and I got anointed to have a conversation with you somewhere in the near future. So just to put that on your radar. And then the other one was about Mika's brief, which is a little bit more complicated around solar bylaws and the fact that the SJC is hearing a case that has the potential to dramatically restrict towns' ability to regulate in any way solar bylaws. So there's several entities statewide that are doing amicus briefs, and the planning board is considering signing on, but we wanted to also see if the select board would consider that. So that's a subsequent conversation.
Michael, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's somebody talking in the background. If you have somebody talking in the background, please mute so we can hear Michael. Sorry, Michael.
That's okay, thanks. That was it. I mean, I don't want to go into detail. They're both complicated, but just if we can get on your agenda in like the next month, that would be cool.
Okay, I think our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, which is the 18th. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, good. Miriam?
Yeah, just 2 updates, one from the Historical Commission and one from the Conservation Commission. So Rita, you know this, and Michael knows this from the CPC, that the Historical Commission and the Concom have CPA proposals on the table. And both of them we would like to request select board support for. So I'm wondering if we could arrange to maybe just put them on the agenda, maybe for the next meeting, to discuss them. One for the Historical Commission is renovating and doing some restoration work on the guide board that's on town common, that is in need of some repairs, which, you know, it's on town property. So we do need to have select board consent if we were to do the work. And then the other is a land acquisition for conservation purposes, which would be using a mixture of funds, including some CPA funds, a large sizable donation from the Kestrel Fund, and some use of conservation trust funds from the Conservation Commission, which my understanding is we would not be able to use without the select board's support.
And town meeting vote.
And a town meeting vote.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
But without, you know, we would like the select board's support for that project and for the Conservation Commission's decision to use our trust funds for a portion of the expenses. So that's just really an ask that we could put these on the agenda, and we can talk about the proposals at that point this month in January.
So Miriam, you know, we typically don't do a response during the public comment period, but I just wanted to mention that I had sent you an email regarding kind of my dual role,
Okay.
which I would not vote as chair of the select board, because I also serve on the Community Preservation Committee, and I don't want to do a vote in advance of the CPC having gone through its process. So the
Okay.
CPC will be going through its process in February and March, reviewing applications. So if you're looking for something in advance of the CPC's review, I would not be participating in a select board vote, just because I don't want to preclude any.
Okay. Well, I don't know, I don't know what the right process is, whether, there's any reason why we need to have a select board vote in anticipation before that. I don't think so. I think really we just wanted to have the select board be aware of these proposals.
Okay, that's
and,
fine. Yeah. So I don't see
be
a problem.
available.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
don't see
maybe
a
we
problem
can do this at
that.
a later date then.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks.
you're welcome. Any other public comments? None being seen. I want to turn over the floor, or the screen as it were, to Acting Chief Kristen Burgess. And there she is.
Good evening, everyone. Pardon my congested, crackly voice. I sit at home getting better. No COVID though. So I'm not seeing Ernie on here. I did see him, and I don't see him now. So let me can I take 1 minute here and just try and get a hold of him? He was on and then he disappeared.
There he is.
Okay, great. There he is. There he is. Hello. Hi, Ernie. He was having some struggles getting on. So hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. I am coming to you, the select board, this evening due to a opening that we do have currently in the police department for some hours to have someone fill. I'm feeling pretty blessed. I was a few weeks ago, probably at this point a month ago, I was approached by Ernest Fitzel, Ernie, and that he heard the great things that happen up here in Shutesbury and our beliefs in community policing. And he approached me and asked me if there were any positions available. I spoke to him briefly. He comes from a department where he works in Hatfield. He has experience in Hatfield, and he likes working in small towns, and he was purposefully seeking out another small town to work in. Ernie comes with some really fantastic background. He has a lot of experience dealing with persons with autism, which is extremely appealing to our department. We want to keep a very balanced department in that area. And so that's exciting for us. And with his experience, I believe that he would make a great addition to our team. So I'm coming to you, the select board tonight, to ask your approval in appointing Ernie to the department, as we do have a need and there is an opening.
Okay, are there any questions, or Ernie, is there anything you want to add or to introduce yourself to the?
Okay, my name is Ernest Fitzel. I work with Hatfield Police Department. I'm married with 5 children. I live in Westfield, Massachusetts, and I started policing about 8 months ago, and I love it. And I love this small town community policing that we do in Hatfield, and it sounds to be about the same. So looking forward to hopping on and continuing that journey.
Okay, any questions from select board members? Eric?
Just what your sense might be of how long you would be interested in doing this.
Till I retire, really. I'm kind of just looking, for a place to call home and somewhere that I can really sink my teeth into and kind of grow from there. I have no desire to jump to a major department. I like to be able to get to know the people in town, and then I can deal with them on a first name basis instead of having calls stacked up where you're just doing things maybe you shouldn't do to kind of move along to the next call. So yeah, for the long haul, really.
I'd like
Melissa?
to, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just
Kristen.
wanted to quickly mention that if anyone has any questions in regards to the Bridge Academy, Ernie is currently enrolled in the Bridge Academy and he's being sponsored by Hatfield. I've spoken to the Hatfield police chief, who is absolutely willing and happy to continue sponsoring him through the Bridge Academy himself while he transitions to working with our department as well. So that's really nice and great news that they want to work in cooperation with us.
Melissa, any questions? Becky, did I see your hand raised?
Yes, I'm sorry, Ernie. Ernie, I thought I understood that you might be moving closer to Shutesbury. Is that?
My wife works for the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services, and she's going to be moving. Right now, she's in Agawam, but she's looking to move to the Winchendon Cemetery. So that would be in like April or May of next year. So we will be moving as a family up that way.
Wonderful, because you might find Westfield can be a bit of a hike, so it'll be nice to have you closer in the future.
Okay, any other questions? I guess my only question is about how many hours, Kristen, or like what slot are you filling with this
Yes,
position?
so yes, Rita, we're looking to fill a shift. Sorry, this cold is congested in my head right now. A shift or 2 a week. We're filling the slot that Megan Gallo left open for us.
Okay, good. Any other questions? So we are looking for, is there a motion to appoint Ernest Fitzel as a police officer? Is that as a police officer and
A part-time.
part-time police officer?
I'll
Yeah,
make
in
a motion
Shutesbury.
I'll make the motion to appoint Ernest Fitzwell for the part-time police position.
Okay.
Second. I'll
Okay,
second that.
any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Kristen, is there anything else that you wanted to report to us this evening, or?
Excuse me, I don't think so.
Okay.
Other than I am on the mend and I am hoping to be back soon. I am staying far away just to make sure everybody stays healthy. But I think everything is moving along smoothly, and I thank you so much for your attention this evening.
Okay, well, feel better.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night. Okay, I just want to do a time check. Okay, great. We're right on time. So the next item on the agenda is what we're calling a brainstorming session about the municipal vulnerability grant opportunity. And I believe Becky sent out an invitation to a number of boards and committees and some staff. I see folks here, and maybe if those committees representatives can identify themselves and just say who they're representing this evening, that would be great. So I know we'll start with Michael.
I am representing the planning board.
Okay. And Susie, are you here representing somebody?
Representing the FinCom.
Okay. And Walter?
Yeah, I'm representing the fire department and emergency management.
Great. I'm just looking at kind of staff and board members. So Marianne?
I'm representing the library. And
Okay.
Kate Sell is here. She's one of the co-chairs
Okay.
of the trustees, and she's also representing the library.
Okay, great. So I just say if there's somebody else that you're, is that from your committee or board that's here, Miriam?
Conservation Commission.
Okay. And Kat Hilton?
Yes, I'm for Board of Health, of course.
Okay. And did I miss anybody who's here as an official representative?
I think Herons might be David Green.
That's correct.
Okay. And
from
David
Nowak.
from
Nowak.
Lake Wyola.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, great. And anybody else I'm missing? All right. And
Tree warden.
And Don, tree warden.
Thank you.
Great. And nobody's here for the highway department, is that correct?
Unfortunately, Tim is ill and unable to attend tonight.
Okay. And there was nobody coming in his stead. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. So I know that Michael had sent out the municipal vulnerability report, and along with that, the attachment regarding the process for getting funds. And this is a really great opportunity for the town. I mean, we just completed the municipal vulnerability action plan. We had some very well-defined priorities in that plan. And if you haven't already, reviewed this, basically we are on a timeline here where if we submit our expression of interest by January 21st, then we could get some feedback from the MVP folks and looking to put an actual letter of interest in by February 14th, and then subsequently, I can't remember the following date, but we would do an application. So what they're doing, which is really great, is giving towns an opportunity to work with the MVP folks on what they want to do, which is somewhat atypical of state grants, but is something that's, is a tremendous opportunity for us. So, and I know I signed up for a webinar. I can't remember the date now, January, maybe the 17th, something like that. I don't know if somebody else has that on their calendar, where they're going to be, answering questions and doing a presentation. Do you know the date?
19th.
The 19th, okay. So what we wanted to do this evening is just hear from all of you. We did get an email from the planning board regarding kind of their priorities, which was stormwater management and specifically around green infrastructure and low impact development and green stormwater runoff. So that's something that the planning board has identified, and we'd love to hear from other committees, boards, if there's anything kind of on this list in the higher priority, even in the lower priorities, that you would want us to potentially apply for MVP monies. So I don't know who wants to go first, but you can just use the raised hand feature if you don't mind. And Susie.
I read the report from Fuss and O'Neill, and they mentioned on page 4 about the situation with the roads. And then in the priorities, other than the culvert inventory, and bridges inventory, they didn't go back to the topic of roads. And on page 4, they just sort of concluded it would be too expensive for the town to try to do anything. But I feel like the issues around accessibility on dirt roads is becoming so prominent that I would like to see some kind of data tracking, some kind of record keeping, some kind of survey that talks about the conditions of the dirt roads. We have mud. The mud season is now changing again. We just had a mud event, and it's like, really? We expect that in the spring, but I think that the climate changing has affected the dirt roads to the point where we should be able to say the conditions of the roads. And it's not even just about driving them, it's about access. We've had springs where the school buses and the people have a really difficult time getting down Montague, Baker, Old Wendell. And if there's going to be any kind of infrastructure money coming down the road, I would like to have a good assessment of the problems the dirt roads have, and be able to present that information to whatever funding source might come along. And I do think the town might need to consider whether it wants to develop a plan for how to deal with it, even if we don't get a large money from the infrastructure bill.
Good, thanks. Reactions to that or other ideas that folks have? Miriam?
Well, I just want to say the Conservation Commission did not get a chance to vote on action steps, but I think I can say with some confidence that we've been talking about these issues on an ongoing basis and shares the same concerns as the rest of the planning process, that stormwater management on roads are a major concern, both from a safety perspective as well as a environmental management perspective. And I think we would wholeheartedly support an effort to do a very thorough culvert assessment and possibly in the future commission an engineering study to look at LID stormwater methods, so that we are using the best possible approaches in the future with increased stormwater events affecting our roads, particularly dirt roads, which are the most vulnerable. So, thank you.
Thanks. Michael?
You already talked about the planning board, but I just wanted to sort of offer up an approach or concept. it seems like this is would be an opportunity to ask for a lot of money. Last year, I think there was excess of 200 towns and cities that got money, which was a big jump from the year prior, which I think was about 40 or 50. And then with the federal infrastructure money and maybe the Build Back Better money, it seems like if there was ever a year where the state was going to be giving out money, this would be the time. So, my thought is I wanted to throw it out at the beginning that one way to think about it is either a big project that we otherwise couldn't afford, or bundling different things into a thematic whole. So an assessment for something or an action for something and bundling together. It seems like doing small incremental would be a wasted opportunity, but if we can sort of thread things together, that would, I think, take advantage of the opportunity.
Other comments?
Rita, I don't have the ability to put my hand. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
This has obviously been a discussion with LWAC, and we've talked about it at previous select board meetings and such. So I do believe I remember hearing that stormwater runoff was not a big issue as far as the town as a whole. We were concerned about here, obviously, on Lake Wyola, but the town itself didn't seem that it was an issue with their other roads. I believe I'm hearing differently tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I want to throw my 2 cents into that. Obviously, stormwater runoff is a huge issue around the lake. And if I kind of agree with Michael, go big or go home. If we were going to ever get something done around the lake, then we should actually incorporate the entire town as well. And this looks like it's potentially an opportunity to do that. And I would probably concur that most of the members of my committee would agree with that assessment. And that's all I'd like to add at this point.
Great, thank you. Other comments around stormwater or other issues? Walter.
Yeah, I appreciate Michael's question and suggestion that we bundle things, because you look at this, there's a list of 50 different projects that are listed. And how do we give priority to those? If you do look at, a recurring theme through a lot of it, even when you start talking about development, transportation planning for vulnerable populations during hazard events, things like that, it all comes back down to roads and road conditions and road accessibility. So I think, if we're looking at doing something big, we could probably bundle about 8 or 10 of these different points or more, one project that would at least partially assess all of these. So, rather than, trying to pick out each one and then try to assess it and all that with so many different plans, I think we could look at a way to bundle some of these together to say, yeah, let's look at one big project that will address as many of these as possible. And the recurring theme seems to be, roads, road conditions, water runoff, culvert sizes and all that. And that all comes down to, as we talked about during the development of this, the fact that, as climate changes happens, whether you, say it is or not, whether you want to call it, global warming or just natural progression, there are going to be changes. And one of the things we looked at is just the big swings. When it gets dry, it's going to get drier. When it gets hot, it's going to get hotter. When we get rain, it's going to come down in large amounts like we have been seeing over the last couple of years. And I think this is probably something that we could knock a whole bunch of these off together by doing something that addresses most of these. I agree with Michael. I thank him for bringing that up.
Thanks, Walter. So I see Marianne and then Susie.
I just wanted to ask a question. I wanted to ask, I know that there's been some talk about doing some work on the HVAC at the elementary school. Are those plans going to include installing air conditioning? Because one of the things in the list of this report was air conditioning at the elementary school. And air conditioning at the elementary school doesn't really rope in nicely with road management, but I think that, I think we know that we're going to have hotter temperatures earlier in the year and later in the year, and that it's going to be, just not a healthy environment for people to be working in the school without air conditioning. And I think if that's not in the HVAC conversations that are already happening, if that could be part of this, so that our children and our 40 plus employees can be comfortable in the second half of May, all of June, and then the whole month of September. I think the building is going to need air conditioning.
So Becky, is that money, is the federal money, can that be used? I know it could be used for ventilation, but can be used for air conditioning?
It's not clear. And it's also, but it does, adding air conditioning to the school requires, we have to be mindful of that with the HVAC upgrades, because some of the, there's a few ways to do it and not all of them will be able to couple with the air conditioning. So we have to be careful how it's done so we can add in the air conditioning, which we're doing. A minimal amount was put in this summer to the library and I think the art room and the music room all got air conditioning this summer. So that was done with mini splits using some of the CARES money. So we have a couple pots of money that we're still sorting out whether we can do the air conditioning, but it may or may not fall into, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to get funding for it through the Build Back Better, if nothing else.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that. Okay.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I had one more thing, that air conditioning at the school is more critical now than ever, because they are going year round. They aren't stopping in the summer. So July and August are now education months at the school. So that's making it even more critical. Sorry, thank you.
Okay. Marion, I don't know if you still wanted your hand up.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. So Susie?
So going back to what I started with, the road assessment is not on this list. We're not limited to ideas that are on this list.
That's correct.
Okay, so, right.
That's correct. And I think it's kind of pointed out, you can expand, road assessment would fall under stormwater management. I think that's a big part of the problem with the roads.
Except it isn't. The mud that's going on isn't from runoff. And I know in our road, we've recently developed new wet spots from Lord knows where. And ice and snow are a different problem. So I think that the dirt road assessment project would have a bigger impact than just stormwater.
Okay. Do I see, Michael, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I was just gonna contribute that I think, Walter sort of hit on it, that it's extreme changes, and so, in proposal speak, we're not having freezes and then thaws that last for months. And so whether it's downpours or drying or whatever, I mean, I think it's about vulnerability because of the climate. And so I think that's the leading edge of the argument. And, if they give us the money, we can figure out what the problem is. But I think that might be a way to approach it in terms of the roads.
Other comments? So the MVP process and what's going to be available is sort of new to me. And I guess my question for us, and I know, Michael, you've sort of had a lot of background with this and helped get this initiated in the first place, is if we're thinking big, are we thinking big about doing some sort of an assessment, or are we thinking big about an assessment and then some implementation? So, you know, I did look back to see where awards were made last year. And for example, Leverett got money for a culvert, I think it's Shutesbury Road in Leverett. So I assume that they already had some of their engineering done in advance of the MVP money, and then they used the MVP money and it was at least a couple of $100,000, as I recall. If we're going to do something sort of broadly around roads and around stormwater, are we simply looking at some sort of in-depth evaluation, some preliminary engineering, and then, you know, later on assuming some implementation? Because obviously there's not enough money to do all the stormwater management that we might want to do. So if we're going to narrow this down, what does it get narrowed down to? What does that application look like? And maybe that's something we need to discuss with the MVP folks, but if we could start that here, that would be great. Yeah, Michael. I don't see enough hands. Oh, Gail, I'm sorry. Let me just give Gail a chance to.
Hi, thanks. I'm sorry I'm joining so late. I had another meeting this evening. I didn't hear all the discussion about the MVP, but I did want to let you know that right now the broadband committee is exploring some ways to make our network more resilient, and it is going to require the purchase of some more equipment. And so we have some pretty concrete quotes for that. It's around somewhere between $12,000 and $13,000. So I want to throw that in the pot as a potential way to use this money. And again, it can be concrete, and I can get a kind of workup of what's needed in the next couple of months if this needs to happen quickly. And also, we're not poor, in the broadband realm, so it's not an absolute necessity. If other things seem like we need to put our weight behind those. So anyway, just wanted to throw that into the pot if that's helpful.
Great. Thanks, Gail. So I want to go back to Michael and Becky, unless there's something related to what Gail just said. Okay.
Gail, could you just explain what that item is? It's a connect Leverett to Shutesbury. Is that what you're trying to do on the fiber network to have to create redundancy?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things that we're working on. One of them is, the thing that I think would be most applicable to this is backhaul diverse pathways. Right now, we have some vulnerabilities in the way of it. Think of the whole internet, and the way that internet gets into our town is through just certain roads in town, actually just one road right now. And so it would be better for us if we had multiple ways for that backbone internet to reach our town. So we're going to do this either way. It would be great to get some money for it, so that if trees come down, take down those utility poles, that section of fiber is not as vulnerable, because then it can come in through the other direction. Make sense?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to Michael and then to Kate after that.
Yeah, I had two things to share. One is just looking at the MVP action grants. They have these 9 core principles. And so in terms of thinking about, what we would be applying for, it sort of gets to, Susie's question about, does it have to be on the list? And so the first one is furthering a community identified priority action to meet climate. So, if it's on the list, it's an easy, but I don't think it has to be on the list. We just have to sort of identify that it was identified. So I think there's that. In terms of your other question, Rita, my sense just, from tracking MVP is that it can be a combination of getting information that furthers and prepares us for action as well as actions. In fact, I mean, I think we should do some actions, one, because it's nice to check something off. And if we have money and get it done, that would be good. But it also sort of, it says that we're ready to do some stuff. On the other hand, you know, like with the planning board, when we were thinking about green infrastructure, broadly speaking, and then stormwater management underneath that, that could be hiring a consultant, you know, so that one could get, you know, one or more consultants to actually look at a range of these things. So it's furthering our knowledge and preparing us for something. So it's not planning, it's data gathering. And if we bundle data gathering for specific identified needs, and then we have some actions that we know we want to do. So, you know, maybe we can't do a whole bunch of culverts, but we can, you know, buy something that the highway department can use, or I don't even know what the answer is, but, and I would say, you know, in terms of stormwater, it's what we talked about in the planning board, and part of where we got there, since Penny's not here, is immediately prior to the planning board discussion about this, Penny talked to us about the open space plan. And that clearly identified stormwater as one of the things. So we were trying to sort of dovetail other initiatives, but, you know, there's the Lake Wyola issue, there's roads, conditions, there's, you know, if there's a big water event, there's going to be water rushing down Leverett Road, you know, and creating erosion. So, you know, there, you know, and then there's wells. And I think about, you know, on the dry side, you know, how, you know, Walter uses water ponds for firefighting, and if they dry up, so there's lots of different components of this, and they're connected. So having a consultant who can sort of look at a range of things is actually not a bad idea with a particular focus, and then doing some particular actions. So that's my long-winded answer to your question.
Okay, Kate, I don't see your hand up now, but did you have a comment?
No, Michael covered me, so I put my hand down.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. Other comments from any of the other folks represented here? Don, Kat, just looking at people who haven't had a chance to speak up. Don?
I was hoping to hear that, and really Walter and Becky have the best background to answer this. I was hoping to hear that emergency shelters, whether it was the town hall or it's beginning to sound now like the elementary school because of air conditioning needs, HVAC needs, that some sort of a plan would be come up to reinforce our emergency shelters. Maybe Walter has a better idea of what the needs are for something like that. But it sounds to me like if you're going to improve your broadband connection, I mean, maybe you want that to go to emergency shelters like the elementary school. That is the one route into town right now. But perhaps we're talking about a future library as well. And, you know, I don't have the answers to these. This is a question. I'm just asking about emergency shelters.
Sure. Walter, do you want to respond? I know that's been something that we talked about.
There's a emergency sheltering in a small town is a very, I wouldn't say touchy subject. It's a difficult subject because there's two parts to it. There's the actual physical shelter, and then there's the people to run the shelter. Basically what our plans now, and because Shutesbury is a town that very many people are self-sufficient, but as we get to an older, you know, population, they are less self-sufficient, and as things get, you know, could be more potentially dangerous and, you know, more violent, we may need the need for more sheltering. But as it stands right now, we use the town hall as a shelter for if we only have a few people. Our cutoff point is 10. If we get 10 people that need sheltering, then it's moved down to the school. But there's always, you know, pros and cons with being at the school, especially now that we're talking, and this is the first I've heard of it, but that the school may be working, you know, round the calendar. is that you have to have a separation of the people that you're sheltering to the kids in the school. And that's a very delicate subject. And if you've got people in there, well, where could we put them? And where it's not interfering or putting the kids in any kind of jeopardy or any kind of, legal issues there. So sheltering has always been a big thing. And then the other part is, once you get that part, who's going to run it? Who's going to do that? Who's going to be there to make sure that we have food for the people, that they're being separated, that we meet their needs and all that. And that's a whole nother volunteer thing. And as we know, volunteers are great, but you can't always count on them, and you can't always, as people move in and out, we lose people and their knowledge and all that. So it is a tough thing. It's something we do have to look at. It's why Franklin County has done a regional sheltering plan. But then again, that's more if it's a widespread thing. If just Shutesbury is involved, we're probably not going to be able to send people to the Montague school, Montague High School for sheltering, because they're not going to be set up as a shelter. So it's a very tough balance and a tough thing to try to figure out. Yes, it's something we have to address. Luckily, because of the resiliency of a lot of the people, we haven't had to do much. Anytime we've opened them up, I think the most we've ever had is maybe 3 people show up to the shelter, and that was during the ice storm of 2008. We did have luckily a lot of people just went down into the valley and stayed in motels down there because they weren't affected and it wasn't a busy time for them. So it worked out well for everyone, but there is going to be that time that it's not. So yeah, it's something to look at, but I think there's other things right now that are a bit more priority driven, in the short term that we should really be looking at, but let's not lose sight of that. Yes.
Thanks, Walter. Kat?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that is a very complicated business. There are all kinds of liability issues and other issues. Very often the Red Cross is brought in to staff emergency shelters that are set up in towns, and we have to abide by their rules. And the Board of Health looked at it some years ago, and we felt that it was something best stayed away from.
Yeah, I agree with that. When we looked at it, basically their contract says, we'll come in and do this, but we take over your building. We take over everything, including what you can do and what you can say to the news media. So it was like, it was too overwhelming, too overpowering.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments, ideas, suggestions for the MVP? So I was thinking about this as I was preparing for tonight's meeting, and we have, I think let me go back to these dates now. So we want to get something in, expression of interest in by Friday, January 21st. So we have 2 options as I see it. We can come back to the next select board meeting and kind of finalize what we want to do, or maybe there's some work that needs to be done by a subset of the folks here tonight, just to kind of put something, to shape something a little bit more, so that we would have something to submit to the MVP program. And I don't know, does anybody have any ideas about the best way to kind of continue this? Because I think we've had a good discussion, but we need to get down to some more specifics, and the the rolling expression of interest. I don't know if anybody took a look at it, but it's a 6-page form. Most of it is sort of checking things off, but we have to start to get a little bit more specific about exactly what it is we might be looking for.
And it's very brief. They're looking for 100-word maximum to describe how the project will address identified climate hazards, and then to describe the job itself with the best estimate there, there's a project summary. They don't limit the words on the project summary. Oh, it's project summary is limited to 350 words. So,
and the project type is sort of, I was talking about earlier, which is kind of early on in the form, is planning, assessment, capacity building, which is type 1. Type 2 is design and permitting. And then type 3 is construction and on the ground implementation. So I assume we're in type 1, but I think we want to go, maybe there's something within that second category too. If we had some specific project we wanted to work on.
Yeah. Rita, it looks like you can check any of those 3, like more than one.
Right. So how do we get there? I guess is my question, is how do we get to some consensus about exactly what this is, what we're going to look for. So if we have sort of the broader stormwater management / roads as our priority, then it needs to be better defined than that, obviously. What does that mean? What are we looking for engineers, stormwater specialists to kind of help us? What's the extent? Are we looking town-wide? Are we focusing on one part of town? If we're just doing an assessment, or if we want to include some implementation money.
I think the Leverett was successful because they had already done the engineering. I think doing implementation without a sound estimate may not happen. I think the closest thing was Gail's project, that they've already estimated some of that. But that doesn't tie back to the roads.
Right. And I think there's another source for the broadband. Kat, I don't know if your hand is still up because you had a comment, or?
No, sorry.
Okay. So I'm just looking for some thoughts. I see Miriam's hand up, and then Marianne.
I think that we need an engineering plan. We need an engineering consultation to lay out LID stormwater methods for problem areas in town. And then we could look at how we're going to implement that. What would that require for extra funds, extra equipment, extra staffing, whatever. But I think that catches a lot of different problem areas, that concept, including dirt road stormwater management, which I think an engineering plan would be extremely helpful. And also that captures culverts. And I think that would also possibly play a role for Lake Wyola stormwater management, though I understand we may not be focusing on the private roads, but it could dovetail with, the Lake Association's efforts to get an engineering assessment as well for their private roads. So that's my
Marianne,
thought.
and thank you. Marianne, and then Michael.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. So it seems like, could we apply for funds to do a study 1 year, and then do the study, and then plan to apply for funds to implement some of the, the designs that might come up in a study? And then are the private roads around Lake Wyola precluded from participating in this? I know they're private roads, but they are people who live in our town, and they're residents of Shutesbury. So I just, so, so can it be included in this? And is this a way that the town could help those roads? Because, people really are struggling over there. And I've heard people say stormwater management, and that's great. But when I think of the dirt roads, I think of it as more than just stormwater management. So I wonder if we can sort of create our own term of like rural dirt road. Oh my God, we can't live like this in climate change anymore. Somebody can make up an acronym using there must be a thing that we like. It's a new thing that has happened. Like we are having holes in the roads that the highway department goes and dumps a dump truck full of stone in, and the next day it's a big hole again. And this during mud season, this was happening, not this past season, but the season before. And they couldn't keep up with it. And then Susie was saying that there is trouble on Cooleyville Road, on the dirt portion of Cooleyville Road in December and January. And we don't usually have that in December and January. And I'm a walker. And I've been walking around and I'm seeing standing water in places right now, in places where there's not usually standing water, and it just makes me wonder, like, so what does that mean for, the integrity of the roads? And this is on the paved roads. So anyway, I just think it's something that's affecting our roads and all of them. So, and if there's a way to rope us all in, that would be good.
Okay, so there are a number of hands up, so I just want to do a check-in here because we are now already almost 10 minutes over what we had allotted and on the agenda for this, but I don't want to stop conversation, but I do want to ask if you have something new to add, and then I want to talk about next steps, because I think my goal is this evening to decide, are we going to have another meeting? Does it need to be a select board meeting, before the next one on the 17th? Can a group here of, of folks who have some interest in helping to shape this, come up with a proposal that then is brought back to the select board? So that's kind of because I just don't want to leave it sort of vague and we all walk away without having planned for how we're getting something submitted. Because as I said at the outset, this is a great opportunity. So I'm going to say Michael, Walter, Kate, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do next.
I have a concrete thing. I'd volunteer, if it made sense, to go through the report and sort of pluck out all the things that people spoke to and see if there's a way of connecting them. But there's lots of things in here that have not been mentioned. So to really sort of just trim it down and say, here's the different points. It's a starting point to figure out, I forget how Mary Ann said it, but creating a new thing. And we need to do a decimal number for the new thing, Mary Ann. So work on that.
Good thing this meeting's being recorded.
But I'll volunteer to do that if that seems like a reasonable next step.
That certainly seems reasonable to me. We'll start with the select board. Melissa, Eric. Do you have any comments?
Can I add one more thing? I'm sorry, Rita. Could I add one more thing from LWAC?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And then wait a second. Let me go back to Walter and Kate, and then
I just want to say I would volunteer to do the same thing with Michael, and then we can compare. Yeah, I would love to work with him to work on this project. He seems like he's really got his head wrapped around it.
Okay. Walter and then Kate.
Okay, yeah, just a couple of things I want to highlight in some of the last things that were said and talking about, can we address Lake Wyola roads and all that? Well, there was one thing that really was in probably the medium priority, I think it was, but, looking at the assessment of the Lake Wyola area, not just in the, for the roads and all that, but, the runoff and the sedimentation and how it affects the quality of the lake. The lake is a good asset to the town. And, anything we can do to help preserve that is, yes, if that means doing some of the roads around the lake to handle that, then, that's what has to be done to preserve the lake as an asset to this town. So there, it kind of falls into that. And the other thing I think it was talking about, like places where there's standing water in the roads and all that. If we mention it, not just storm runoff, but road drainage can, because sometimes, yes, it's not from runoff, but there may be an area where the water pools underneath the road because it's a low spot or something. There's not any quality drainage there. If we put that verbiage in where it's not just stormwater runoff, but drainage of roads, proper drainage and grading of roads, that may help go a long ways to getting rid of those mud spots and all that other stuff. Just the two comments I want to make in there.
Good, thanks. Kate?
Yeah, this might not be necessary, but I've had a couple of conversations as, pulling together experts on climate adaptation, not necessarily at the municipal level, but sort of more regional and state level, okay? And having conversations with local and state representatives. So talked to both of our reps, Natalie and Joe, about this. And one of the things that I heard from both of them and their staff was their interest in helping figure out how municipalities could increase capacity to absorb the infrastructure and one hopes the Build Back Better funding that's coming. And so I don't know if we've already had those conversations with Joe and Natalie. I know Natalie specifically mentioned how concerned she was about roads in Shutesbury. And so if there's anything that we think that they might be able to do to help, I heard really willing from them.
Great. I promised I'm going to wind this up. So Susie, I'll give you a minute.
I know that both at the Senate and the House level, there are study committees that were meant to start last June studying roads. So some of that work may be available to us.
Okay, great, thanks. So I heard that there were 2 volunteers, and I don't know if you guys can work together. And I'm sorry, Lake Wyola, is it Dan?
David Green.
David. So does it make sense, Michael, for you and David to collaborate?
Michael's on mute.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, if I get David's email, we can just work together on it. That'd be great.
I will, we don't need to discuss email addresses over the Zoom event,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that,
We'll figure out a way to get you guys connected.
if I
David.
contact my good friend Becky Torres tomorrow, I'm sure she can provide me with your email address and we'll take it from there.
It's on the planning board page, so just look it there and then shoot me an email.
I will get in touch with you tomorrow. It's going to come from my work email, Michael. I work at the Greenfield Savings Bank, so if it goes into your spam box, that is why.
Okay.
No degrade on my bank, but.
So then what, and just want to make sure we're in conformance with the open meeting law here. So this is not any kind of a subcommittee, but rather 2 independent groups working together. What would be great if you come up with a proposal and then get it to, a draft proposal, get it to Becky, and then we get something in advance of the next select board meeting so that.
What's that date, Rita?
The date of the next select board meeting is January 18th. Okay. So 2 weeks from today. And we have to submit the the letter of interest, we want to get something in by I believe it's the 21st. If I'm not mistaken. I kind of looked at those dates and so the expression of interest form, the early submission is January 21st. And what that does is then the MVP will engage with the town prior to the actual deadline, before the February 14th deadline. So, we have some time to help shape it, shape our submission. So does that, Eric, Melissa, that sound reasonable to you, that we would then put something on the agenda for our next meeting?
Yeah, it sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we wrap this up? All right, well, thank you everybody for coming this evening. Really appreciate it. And let's get out and get some of that MVP money. I think we're well poised. I mean, we've done a lot of work. We have the hazard mitigation plan, the MVP. We have a lot of interest. So, and I guess the only other thing that I would add, I know Tim isn't here this evening, but David and Michael, if somehow you can engage with him, Becky, does that make sense? I think it would be,
be in touch with me ahead. I just
Okay.
want to make sure he's well. He's not.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm happy to get you his phone number once he's well.
Yeah, I just think, having that somebody who's literally on the ground, on the roads, feeding
Tim is not an
information.
email reader, correct, Becky? It's not his forte?
Every 3 or 4 days.
Okay,
Sometimes sooner.
okay.
Okay, maybe when he's back. Okay, all right, great. Thanks. Everyone's welcome to stay with us for the balance of the meeting if you want, but if not, have a good rest of your evening. The next item on the select board agenda is to review the minutes of December 21st and December 6th. No? Why does it say that? Why does it say that on the agenda?
It's the COVID, town hall COVID and.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, I was skipping right ahead. Yes, so very importantly, yes, we want to do the discuss whether or not we're going to keep town hall open, given what's going on in terms of the numbers, and an update to our COVID-19 policy, which we passed at a previous select board meeting, but needs some update.
I noticed a few updates that we probably should do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's ever changing, huh? It's like you do a policy and then just like the CDC, huh? So Becky, did you want to talk about sort of where things stand with the town hall, and if you have a recommendation, given that you're there every day and see what's going on?
Yes, I have had growing concerns in the last week with the Board of Health recording increased COVID numbers, highest in Shutesbury. Last week, we currently have a couple of employees with COVID. I would like not to have any more. I am concerned that people are, we don't know when people come in the door, even if they're masked, we don't know if they're vaccinated or not. So the risk continues. I would like to ask to close town hall to the public for the immediate future, maybe a couple of weeks, and then reevaluate at the next select board meeting. But because of the heightened concern, the heightened numbers, and the vulnerability of our staff, we don't have replacements that can come and fill in for almost every position. So I talk about vulnerability, we have it right here. So those are my concerns. And I I think that staff would support that change at this time. And I'm not trying to lock us down for the rest of the year. Just let's see how the next couple of weeks go and talk about it some more.
Becky, how many cases did the Board of Health say we had in town? Did they give you a number?
8. There were 8, I believe, in isolation at the report last week.
Yeah, this week's report, I have not seen a report from this week. Yeah.
They don't come out till Thursday, I think.
I can let you know the rolling numbers are a bit higher than that right now. Arlene texts me every time there's a case just with the location. So we're familiar with it. And there is some that are dates with when they're supposed to be done isolation, but it's much more than 8 right now. And I think that number is still growing. So, once a week updates, yes, they're good, but the numbers are changing constantly. I can tell you that. So it is more than 8 cases. I'd say we have on our list right now, at least in just addresses, close to 13 or 14 addresses. Some of those have multiple cases.
Yeah, it's hitting home.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have 2 people right now, not due to the fire department, through other sources that are tested positive as of today. So, yep, it's hitting everywhere.
Yeah.
So my question is, what does it mean by closing town hall, quote unquote? Does that mean like the select board doesn't go in there to sign warrant? I mean, I'm not saying we
No,
should either.
We still have
I'm
to
just
go in
asking
and
what
sign
it
stuff.
means.
No,
We don't get out of that, Eric.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
It's like fully vaccinated means you had 2 vaccinations, but you really need 3. So I don't know. What's it mean? It's COVID talk.
My request is to close town hall to the public.
Okay.
All town officials will continue to come in as on an as-need basis. Employees, for the most part, will continue unless they have other heightened concerns. Then I'm asking them not to come in. So it's yeah. All town officials would still be allowed. Can come in and out of the building. So we're just going back to the way we were for about a year, where we dealt with all the town business through alternate means. We either met with people outside, socially distanced and masked, or, when possible, or we set up, being winter, we could set up the room that has the best ventilation in the senior lounge. If a meeting has to take place, between one or, a couple of people, not more than 3 people or 4 people. We kept it really small in numbers, and those, and then we use Zoom for almost everything we can possibly do, instead of just people meeting at town hall. Just trying to keep the airways cleaner, and we do have air filters in most of the offices that are occupied, which are helping. But it's that unknown of people wandering in, and it happens all the time. People looking for a bathroom, people needing trash bags, just all kinds of random access that we'll be cutting that out. Maintaining business as always. We have never stopped maintaining business.
Becky, how's the school handling visitors down there, since they're in classes at the elementary school? How do they handle visitors down there?
I can't tell you. I know they've limited the number of visitors, and they don't have parents can't go into the building, I believe. I think kids are dropped off at outdoors and picked up outdoors. You don't have, it's not like it used to be, where parents would walk in and meet their children. But that's all I know. I haven't talked to Jackie since their policies are changing day to day right now. So I haven't talked to her since last Thursday. I know all the teachers were tested before they came in yesterday. I know that I have gotten tests that I've made available to our staff. Some people have used them. So I just want to make sure to keep our staff safe, make sure they stay home if they're sick, that they can get a test if they can't find one somewhere else. And so far, town hall has been all right.
Becky, did you get the quick test from the state, the 15-minute antigen?
I haven't, we did not get them. They have sent out information to order them through Combis. The minimums on the first 4 sites, the different vendors I worked at, the smallest minimum order was for over 1,000. So I'm still trying, have phone calls into other town administrators because, some of the minimums are 50,000, 100,000. So a lot of the information sent out by the state is not easily, it's not easy to turn it into a COVID test at this point. So I had 5 to begin the week. I've got 3 right now. I can get more in orange if we need them. The delivery dates on the ones I can get commercially are 2 weeks to a month out.
So the other
Okay.
question I had was if someone needed the police department, knowing that the town hall has been open, how would they get police services if they stop by?
They ring the bell and we open the door when people ring the bell, when we're closed. And they say they need the police, we get the police. If they're there. And then we give them the phone number to call dispatch if they're not in the building. If we don't have anybody on duty, we call dispatch if they're not in the building and ask for them to report to the town hall.
Okay, Walter, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just a question for Becky. Did they give any prices on the tests? I was starting to go into Combis the other day to look at that, and I didn't get far enough in to see if they're giving, I know that you said the minimum orders of, several thousand, but did they give a price per test?
Prices range from $5 to $30. The $5 had a $50,000 piece minimum.
Wow. Yep. That's designed for small towns. Yep.
Yeah.
I thought the state was going to do it. I thought the state was going to buy them and distribute them.
They did to all low-income communities.
Oh, that's what it was.
And the rest was they got a contract that allows the towns to,
Oh,
but if
okay.
the order is that much, that wipes out most of the small towns' ability.
Right. That's what it was. Okay.
The one thing go ahead.
The Board of Health has $7,000 left in their COVID grant that Catherine said we can use. I've got to dig in tomorrow with the select board meeting today. I wasn't able to focus more on it. I have spent a few hours, but it's crazy. It's not as straightforward as you would hope.
I was just going to say, the one thing I know is that anybody can get tested at UMass and various sites in Amherst, the bank center, the library, PCR test, the gold standard test. It's free. You can get it.
Yep, they've opened back up. They've
opened back up again. It's a little clunky because it's, it opened up after. This is state brilliance in my personal opinion. Can I editorialize there? Last week is between Christmas and New Year's, right? Probably the worst time. The worst time of the year that anything that you would be in terms of spreading the virus. And they're closed. It's like, hello? And so I go down there yesterday, Monday, and of course they were closed over the whole holiday thing. So Monday, it's totally nuts. Like there's nobody there. They don't have enough tests. It's like, I still haven't got the results. I turned in my test yesterday morning because I had one at home. I still haven't got it. Before this meeting, I checked, I still hadn't got it. And it's Tuesday night.
They're taking.
It's funny, Eric, I was down there about 3 o'clock yesterday, 3:30. I got my results already now. And there was like, the line was only like 6 people in line. It was at that point, must be not too many people were there. It was moving really smoothly. They got it walked in and done and walked back out in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the results
whatever.
Yeah, I didn't get a notification that the results were there, but if you go online to the portal and check it, the results were there.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've done this dozens of times or several times, many times,
Yeah.
and I've always got that email saying your results are available in the portal. So I haven't got that.
I didn't get the email saying that it was there, but it was
All
there.
right, well, maybe I'll check. Anyway, that's all I'm trying to say is there are tests available at UMass at some level of services that's to be determined, I guess, as the future goes on. But
Yeah, it's just not the immediate, it's not the
no,
antigen,
no.
like 15-minute test. Yeah.
But it's a
actually
way
more
better
active
test,
one.
more
Yeah, oh,
accurate,
yeah.
and so forth.
Yes.
It's definitely the
Yep.
way to go if you want to do it.
Okay, so do I hear a motion regarding the temporary closing of town hall to the public?
So moved.
I'll
Do we have
second
to put
that.
a time limit on it, I guess?
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah, I
right?
think we should. I don't think it should be we should recess it each time we have a meeting.
Yeah,
Because
I think
if,
that's a
you know,
great
things will
idea.
change, CDC will change. I mean, they've already dropped the isolation to 5 days. So, you know,
So do we
Okay.
want to say two weeks to
Yeah, sure.
close
until the next
and
select board meeting and then
the
we,
next
yeah.
select board meeting? Okay,
Yeah,
and we'll
that's fine with
reassess
me.
at that time.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
so there's a motion's been made by,
Eric
I guess I made the motion and I will accept the
Okay.
amendment of 2 weeks and that's
Okay.
fine.
So for
Okay.
2 weeks. Yep. Then I'll second that motion too.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Peace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell,
Are
aye.
we gonna let the community know that and then how they're gonna get their services? We should let
Could
them
you
know.
send something out, a town announce out tonight, Becky, and get signage up?
They should know before business tomorrow.
Yeah, so effective immediately. Town hall is closed to the public. And just, emergency contact information.
Yeah,
I don't know
I'd
how we did
emphasize
it before, just like if you need to reach the police, this is what you,
Yeah, services are still available. I would say
Right.
that
Right.
but obviously in a reduced way, but
yeah.
yeah.
Not reduced, Eric.
Well, you know what I'm saying. It's
Well,
reduced
not
if you're
as
at the
easy as
other end of
walking
it.
through the door and
No,
getting
they're not reduced. You just don't have, you just don't walk in the door.
Can't walk
meet
in.
You at the door.
Right.
All services are remaining the same. There's not a change in service.
Right.
You just
Change in
can't.
there's a change in access to service. That's all I'm saying. If you're someone in town, there's a change. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I voted for it, but there is a change in access to service. That's all.
We should just let people know that. That's all.
And we still have the drop box out front, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think for people, just to remind people that that's there, because we use that. That was one way, because some people are accustomed to kind of being able to come in and drop off their tax bill or, or see the town clerk. And it probably would assume that the town clerk and tax collector are the two offices that probably see the most activity.
Department too.
Police department, yeah.
And the assessor.
And
We
the
all do.
assessors too.
It's,
Yeah, you all do, yeah.
we all do.
Okay. Okay, all right, so something can go out right away, Becky, and then
Yeah.
have a posting on the town hall tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, I know we're gonna lose Melissa, and I do want her to hear for a couple more things. So if we can move on to the COVID-19 policy changes.
Run you down through the ones that I noticed. I know Becky's handed off to the Board of Health. The one thing that I had noticed was that, first of all, the CDC changed their guidelines. So we're down to 5 days isolation, 5 days masked. Maybe we should change, this is just a suggestion, is to change that to follow the CDC guidelines for both those things. It may get longer, it may get shorter. They may, whatever they decide to do on those two things. The other thing was in this, and I'm doing this from memory because I don't have it in front of me, in the section where the person was vaccinated and the section where they're not vaccinated. In the non-vaccinated section, we talked about positive and negative and what that person needed to do, positive and negative. But in the vaccinated, we asked them to get tested and then stay home if they're symptomatic, but we didn't say if they were negative or if they were positive. So we didn't denote that whether it was a negative test or positive test. If it's a negative test, they should probably stay home till they're not symptomatic with whatever they have. But I don't think they have to stay out the 10 days. It says if you have symptomatic COVID symptoms, stay home for 10 days. But it doesn't say if you're negative, what you can do if you're negative. So,
Can we
or if
just
you're
start,
positive.
Melissa, can I just go back to the change that Arlene wants the town to make?
I know she's looked at
Becky,
it.
can you put it up? Just
Yeah.
so we can be
Yeah,
looking
I
at
don't
it.
have it. I don't have it on my.
I don't have it in front of me either.
Yeah, so I was going by memory. Those are the ones that jumped out at me.
One second.
Well, Becky's doing that. Can I just ask a quick question, or maybe not quick, I hope it's, but someone told me the other day that if you had COVID and you tested positive, that you would test positive for like another 2 months or something. Is
You
that
can test
true?
Positive for all up to 3 months.
Oh, okay, all right, well, all
12
right.
weeks, I think it's 12 weeks. The college just changed that for testing. If you tested positive, you didn't test again. You didn't go to the testing protocol for 90 days because you could still test positive for that length of time. So they just
Okay.
changed it to 30 days, but you can still test and not be symptomatic and not be shedding or transmission. It's like the flu. The flu, if you have the flu and you get over the flu, you still can test positive for the flu for a length of time.
So they're addressing that by saying after 5 days, you
You're no longer
just have to
symptomatic.
mask because
Mhm,
that's
that's another part
that's
of
the 10 days.
Yeah, that's
But
the,
we have a-
rather, you isolate for 10 days completely. That you would mask, you would isolate for 5 and then mask for 5.
Okay. So Becky, is this the edited version after Arlene Reed gave you comments?
Okay, well, you have not approved Arlene's comments yet, unless
Okay.
I want to get them out there.
Yeah, I'm
Or-
just saying, they're not in here though. There's
No, no.
Okay.
So what she's just asking us to do to bring it along with the CDC and DPH, in each of the instances where the policy states isolate for 10 days, it can be changed to isolate for 5 days. Absence of a fever and improvement in symptoms are still criteria for exiting at that point, but that is already in the current version. Guidance also includes wearing a mask when around others for additional 5 days, but again, you already have that in the baseline. So the only change we're talking about from Arlene's recommendation is isolate for 5 days instead of 10 days.
So do we want to, as Melissa was suggesting, do we want to incorporate in here some language regarding the CDC guidance so that we're not revisiting this every time we meet or more often? Because it just.
We can leave it as what it is now with the 5 days and just say, or follow CDC guidelines.
Right, okay. Okay,
think
yeah,
that's
I would
a-
like to have that. I think that's a good idea to have
There's-
that in there because of the changes and
There's
because
one
it's-
more point I just want to share that Arlene made as you had this discussion about the just following CDC guidelines.
Mhm.
She said employers can choose to have their own requirements in place, but DPH advises against requiring a negative test in order to return to work. The problem with test-based strategy for exiting isolation is that the PCR tests are so sensitive that they will detect even tiny fragments of virus. So this is the
Right.
issue you guys were all just discussing.
Right.
My-
Okay, so we
My thing
shouldn't.
was Becky.
Can I just finish? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
There's
Well,
one
we don't
sentence-
address if the person does have a negative test. We only tell them if they're symptomatic.
Right. But we
Assuming they're
you could add that you require a rapid antigen test. She says the rapid antigen tests are less likely to persist positive. So if you're going to require a test, that's the one you should require, the antigen test. And I have to say that when other employees are looking at someone coming back, knowing they had COVID, and if they are symptomatic at all, I know it says they shouldn't, but how symptomatic is discretionary. I would really like to be able to require at least an antigen test.
I think that, yeah, I think requiring testing, I think that's not a bad thing, at least an antigen, if not a PCR. I mean, they are open again at UMass for those.
But the PCR, as you just talked about, could hang out for 30, 90 days.
So can
30
an antigen.
The antigen is not as sensitive, so it's not as likely to happen that way.
Okay.
The only problem I see with that right the moment is that they're hard to find. If the town can
Yeah.
get them, then that would be good to say you have to have it here. We'll provide you one.
Yeah, and that's, Walter, I did find a source in Orange. I'll get some more, and hopefully I'll get the state one soon, but I still have some around.
Okay. Yep. And could you do me one favor under the second bullet under number 4? Can you look at that and do some it looks like you did a cut and paste and something got left there where it's like returning to work, period, comma, return to work only after 10 days have passed. So it doesn't read very well.
Right. I thought we addressed that one.
So here, I think we need to have a bullet in here. If the person does get tested and they're negative, they're no longer symptomatic for COVID because they're negative. So I think we have to address something in here in this section that if they simply have a cold, not COVID, that they don't have to do all of these things. If they're positive, yes, they have to abide by the rules. But what happens if, you happen to have a sore throat and you get tested and you're negative? The way it's written, it says if you're symptomatic of COVID, then you have to follow these rules. It doesn't address a negative test.
You're talking about the second bullet, right, Melissa?
I'm talking about number 4 in general. It doesn't say if negative, return to work after after a couple of days your symptoms subside. Because someone who simply has a sore throat because of cold or allergies and they get tested for COVID, they're negative. As this is written, it does say they have to, because sore throat is a COVID symptom, and they're vaccinated with a symptom, then they need to abide by 10 days or 5 days of isolation if we change it to that. Because down below where we have people are unvaccinated, we specifically say if positive, do this, if negative, do this. I think we should address the same way for vaccinated people for consistency. Does that make sense?
So I see what you mean. It's like Kristen.
Well, yeah, like Kristen,
a
she's
cold.
reading this, she has
Right.
whatever symptoms she's having
Right.
are COVID symptoms, but she's
Right.
negative tests. So,
Right.
but this tells her
Right.
she has to stay out of work for 10 days. So we have to address a negative and a positive test within this section, right?
I
So
see
on
that.
this- On the second bullet, Melissa, so if we said, if you are vaccinated and symptomatic, but
Vaccinated and
tested negative.
positive. Vaccinated and positive, and then a vaccinated and negative bullet.
Becky, is there any way to edit on this document? This is not a PDF,
This
right?
one, yeah, I brought up the PDF just to be sure
Ah.
I had the right one. Just a second.
I mean, if we're gonna try to do this tonight, it would be nice to see an edited
Yeah.
version up there.
Okay, one
Listen,
second.
just because you can be vaccinated and be symptomatic, and because
Right.
COVID is such a general symptoms,
Right.
it doesn't address if you're
Could
negative.
just be a cold, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a cold 2 weeks ago.
I had a cold. I had a
Yeah, it
cold and
wasn't
I was
COVID.
negative,
My
yeah.
sister had something about a week and a half ago. It wasn't COVID,
Right.
but technically she was symptomatic, and I mean, there's still hundreds of other things out there that you can
Right.
catch, have significant
Including the
illness.
flu.
Yeah. Or tuberculosis, or all
Right.
that other stuff.
Oh my God.
Can come from my basement.
Okay. Oh, we're hearing someone again.
Oh, that's Chris. Hold on. Let me have him shut the door.
So if I start here, if you are vaccinated and vaccinated, symptomatic, and
And
test,
positive,
you want to start with positive.
and test positive, right?
Okay, you should. So that makes sense. Complete 10 days of isolation, return to work. Okay, we're going to be changing these all to 5.
5.
Passed since the first day of symptoms, and you have no fever within 24 hours. Okay. You may return to work only. Okay. Only after 5 days. So that one makes sense. Do we need the same paragraph, but just say negative? Should I just copy this?
But it's not sick time. It's not COVID sick time, right? Or is that's just sort of regular, if you have a cold, are we saying you can use COVID sick time?
That you guys can decide.
And what is COVID sick time? Is COVID
It's
sick
just that
time?
we don't charge the person's individual sick time, that we just eat it. So it doesn't really cost the town anything because it's only for benefited people. Because people who are not benefited don't get any coverage.
And we had said that if they were not vaccinated and they got COVID, that they had to use their accumulated time.
Yeah,
Right,
the personal sick time.
right.
So I think I'm okay with the COVID sick time for now. I don't know how you guys feel. I can go either way on that.
I guess so. I don't know. It's just a little weird. You're calling it COVID sick time. You don't have COVID,
But they wouldn't have been isolating.
right,
had to
that's true.
isolate
Yes,
In
yeah,
a typical year, they could have come back
Right.
after 2
they could
days.
have, come back sick, right?
Right.
They could have worked sick.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Certainly done that in my lifetime. Okay.
So you're doing that for, okay. Excellent. Just
In
negative.
that paragraph you're editing right now, Becky, I think we want to use fully vaccinated, just like we did in that first paragraph, second paragraph, whatever. Or maybe we should use fully in all cases, we say vaccinated. The second bullet, we should say fully vaccinated, and this
Yeah.
bullet, we should say fully vaccinated.
Right.
Can you, this is Linda, can you check on the second bullet how that sentence reads? Because if I'm reading that as an employee, it doesn't make sense.
Which one?
Did
If you're
you
fully
read what you're
vaccinated-
talking about, Linda?
Bullet 2, the second
The
bullet.
second
number
bullet.
4, if you are fully vaccinated, symptomatic, and test positive, you should complete 5 days of isolation from the day the symptoms. What? From the day
Start.
From this day, the start, the day
Right.
0.
from the day the first day of symptoms, or
From the first day.
something like that. And then put,
I'm sorry, are you saying it says from the day the symptoms as COVID sick time started? We don't need COVID sick time, right?
correct.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That needs to be out of another sentence.
Before returning to work. Yeah.
Only after 5 days has passed since the first day. Yeah, that reads all right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. All right,
So
so
that's the same thing for the third bullet. It's got the same as sick time, as COVID sick time.
I was trying, okay. Okay, I see it.
Just,
Okay. So if you are fully vaccinated, symptomatic, and test negative, you should complete 5 days of isolation from the day the symptoms started before returning to work.
I don't
Return-
think if you test negative that you should have to isolate for 5 days.
You're right.
Yeah, that's what
Because
I'm
you
wondering
don't
about
have
too.
COVID,
right.
You should return to work.
but you return to
Return to work as soon as, or whatever, I know.
And the rest of it we get rid of.
Well, you don't want people to come to work sick.
No, so if you test negative,
Oh, no, you don't.
you do not have to isolate and can return to work once feeling better. I know there's probably
When appropriate or something.
Okay,
If
so
you're
if you're symptomatic and test negative, return to work when feeling better.
once your symptoms have once you're on the mend, once your symptoms have resolved.
That's better.
Or maybe, using best judgment when you're not contagious.
Yeah, that's right. Because a cold is
So, right, because that's what we really worry about. Of course, what does that mean? Everybody can say,
Right.
well, I'm sneezing, but I'm not contagious, but.
Right. And some advice is that you test yourself again in a couple of days. You know, if you're using a self-test to, if you're using a self-antigen test at home and you test negative, there is some recommendations that you test again if you're symptomatic. But I don't know. Anyway.
They are still, I know, they are pretty accurate.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They are. Yeah.
Okay.
We did 480 of them last week at work.
Wow.
And 980 the week before because they wanted all the staff tested.
Can I say, please provide a negative antigen
Yeah.
test?
Yeah.
result?
Yeah, so they probably have to take a picture of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Result. Test result.
And we don't need this. Right?
Right, no, you don't need that.
Five days from the. And this, I would like to add, please provide a negative antigen test result here too.
If it's possible.
Oh, yeah, and you have as COVID sick time still in that sentence as well. But you could use COVID sick time for that, right?
Yep. You may use COVID sick time for that one.
You are vaccinated and symptomatic, but test positive for COVID, the 5-day isolation period still begins with your first day of symptoms as day 0. Symptom resolution as described above also applies. What does that mean?
This one is number 2, the second
So
bullet.
why is this different from number 2, the
It's not.
second bullet?
We can delete this one.
Okay.
Because it's the same as number 2. Or not number 2, bullet 2.
Okay.
I know I use the term fully vaccinated, but do we want to say fully vaccinated and boosted? There seems to be a little discrepancy about what fully vaccinated means.
It says it above in number 1, Eric.
Oh,
Recommended
yeah.
booster doses. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
I think the definition nationally is going to change.
It's going to. I think you're right, but I don't think it has. If you read the
Not
New
yet.
York Times, they don't use it that way. You know, it's like, really? But they don't.
All right. So this is what you will be voting on now.
Okay, so everything stands the same with the those who have chosen not to get vaccinated?
That was more spelled out. We had spelled that out. If you're positive, if you're negative.
You
before.
want to read through it? I don't think there's no reference to getting an antigen test in number 5.
And is the isolation period still 10 days? I thought it was 5 days.
You're
Yeah,
right.
that should be 5.
It is still, it's 5 days.
And in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th bullet,
Days.
return to work only after 10 days, is it 5? In that same place where you are right now, Becky, in the next.
Yeah, it's 5.
sentence.
It should be 5.
Return to work only after 5 days have passed.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing which.
Just keep going sort of on that
Oh,
same
10
line.
days, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. I went down further.
Yeah.
Okay, and also I think the line, please provide a negative antigen test result.
Yeah, prior to return to work, prior to your return to.
Becky, did the Board of Health or anyone, and I don't know that this is on their radar. It only happened to come out today at work. The COVID card, vaccination card, the way that my employer is handling it is they're having a third party just verify and check it off as confirmed. Someone's looked at it and said, I've been boosted or vaccinated. Has any employee worried about giving a copy of their vaccination card to you?
I have only collected a handful so far.
Okay.
So once I send out back out this amendment, I'm gonna, in that email, I'm going to push. I did the first time, but I only got, it was the holidays. So hopefully I can get them from everyone without incident. There might be.
So if you have anyone push back, you just verify it visually, I guess.
Yep. Okay, so where else might somebody need an antigen test? If you have symptoms and test positive for COVID, you must complete a 5-day period. It's needed here. Please provide a negative test. If you had no symptoms but test positive for COVID, I think we also needed a test, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one, if you have to quarantine or isolate, your personal sick time will be used. The town will not pay for your quarantine or isolation as COVID sick time if you have chosen not to be vaccinated. Okay, I think, anybody see anything else?
The only other thing we were gonna add is about the CDC guidelines.
CDC does not require the antigen test to return to work. So we say that
okay.
we're in conflict.
Okay.
Or we
No,
have to change.
it was the isolation days, because that keeps changing. Isolation and the 5 days, right? Was that part of it, Rita?
Yeah, I think that's what's been changing.
Do we really think that might change again? Dare I ask?
Who knows?
I don't know. Do we have to go back to each? Could we
Well,
make a blanket?
We could put a disclaimer at the top or the bottom and say that isolation, a note that this policy was made to the best of our ability at the time, and anything CDC guidance for isolation and quarantine should be followed.
So I would put that as 6.
Something like that.
Or do you think it should be number 6?
Yeah, it should be,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know why, but this is a funky thing, so. that-
Yeah, I know what
That might
happens.
take me a while, so
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
had
Just,
4 with it to get 5.
yeah, if you just put it in there.
So put in here that the policy was created with the CDC guidance as of maybe today's date. And
Yep.
then if CDC guidance
Guides,
changes.
yeah.
Mhm.
But
Good.
Melissa, my point is, do we need to say CDC
isolation and
guidance
quarantine.
regarding? the
Regarding
number of
isolation.
Isolation
Right.
and quarantine.
Okay.
Yeah. We can require the testing. That's, I know they don't, but.
This is all making me feel like I have a sore throat.
I know, really. I'm feeling worse by the
The
minute.
more we talk about it, the more symptomatic.
I've seen so many people turn around when I've sneezed in the grocery store and looked at me evening, like, it's just a sneeze, honestly.
Really, really.
I've been one of those people. I see somebody sneeze or cough.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
When I'm in my admission days, I'd see 250,000 people a year. Heaven knows what I encountered then. International, domestic,
Yeah.
students.
Melissa, I know you had a time where it's
Yeah,
7:37.
I'm gonna duck off in like 2 minutes. Chris actually started. He's helping me here.
Okay. We have a couple of, so we should vote on this. Do I hear a motion to approve or to adopt the revised COVID?
I'll make a
policy.
motion that we adopt the revised COVID policy as of January 4th, 2022.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
You might
All
just
those
want
in-
to change the date at the top of this, Becky. I think the
Right.
very, very top.
Amended.
Maybe you
Yep.
already did. I don't know. But I can't see that on my screen. Yeah.
Amended, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Peace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye.
I'm gonna duck off. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thanks,
Thanks, Melissa.
Melissa.
Becky,
you,
send
Melissa.
me the recording. I'll just watch the rest of the meeting later.
Great.
Okay, so
Thank you.
we have 2 sets of minutes from December 21st and December 6th. I have reviewed them. Any changes, Eric? Any
No,
comments,
I've reviewed
edits?
them also, and they're both fine. Can we do both?
Okay.
Well, either one, either way we do it.
Okay.
They're both
great.
fine by me.
So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of December 6th?
So moved.
Now second that, all in favor?
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye. And do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of December 21st?
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, so I know that Becky, you have an update around the, there was a Freedom of Information Act filed by our acting police chief regarding the killing of geese at Lake Wyola, and we're trying to get to the bottom of why this happened, how it was authorized, so forth. And so there was some information. I don't know if that was shared with the other select board members, but we did get something back from, is it the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, or is it USDA?
USDA Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
I'm
And
sorry, Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services.
so that it was redacted. I mean, quite a bit was redacted from the report, including who the individuals who had filed to have the
killing.
euthanizing, the killing, whatever now we want to call it, of the geese. And Becky, you want to step us through kind of what you're recommending in terms of a follow-up?
Okay, so last May, there were an inquiry came into the police department from the well, I guess an inquiry came in from the public regarding shooting that was happening down at Lake Wyola early in the morning between 6 and 7. Rumors started to spread that there were geese had been shot. One mother reported a geese floating to the shore, discovered by a young child, bloodied from bullets. So the police department looked into it. We quickly discovered one person whose name was involved in working with the USDA to acquire the permit. We had a phone call. I made a phone call to the person at USDA who had worked on the permit, and he very openly talked about the situation and said that they were hired by a group, by the association at Lake Wyola, to minimize the geese at Lake Wyola. And so I took it to the police department, but also tried to get information. It's been an investigation. The police do have some information on those who are involved. We received a FOIA request. It took 4 months to get it back. It just came in December. The FOIA request lists 12 individuals that are their names and addresses are fully redacted. So the bottom line is I think the interest of the select board is to have a conversation with the permitting authority to request that stronger rules be applied when giving out permits to town property, that to be used on town property, because the town was not advised of the situation. While there had been egg addling permits drawn by members of LWAC for decades, with that nothing further had ever been discussed in public. And it turned out the only reason people became aware of this is because there was a shortage in the type of bullets used in silencers. So they were unable to use silencers this year. And it turns out there's, people have been donating money. That's why there's a number of people listed. People have been donating money to one individual who's been making the transaction and securing the permit. That name is also listed on the egg addling permit of the town. So my suggestion is that we move forward, myself, the police chief, and a member of Lake Wyola Association, a select board member, to have a conversation with the folks that have been giving out the permits and making it clear to them that the town had not approved for this happening, and that the group of individuals who, while we can't determine who they are, we know they did not have town authority to make this agreement, and request this to stop. I know there are some people around the lake especially who feel that they were being overrun with geese, and there might be some pushback on this, but one piece of information the permitted party who came out with their shotguns did not have was that we have bald eagles nesting at Lake Wyola last year when this occurred. And we read through all their regulations, and they are not allowed to endanger any other wildlife that are in that situation, that condition. So this permit in itself was not fully vetted, or it does not follow their own guidelines. So I think the select board, I'm preparing a letter that I hope the select board will sign off on next meeting to send to them to arrange a meeting with town officials and set the record straight, so we are not in the situation come May where it reoccurs. What do you all think?
Yeah, I think that's great. I hope that the letter would, in asking for the meeting, sort of lay out our position. So it's not just, here's our position, that this was done without consultation with the town on essentially town-owned property, that there was no advance notice. I mean, I even took offense at the fact that all those names were redacted, which I didn't see why the privacy thing, why people should have privacy, when they took this action. So I think that's really absurd, but probably something we're not going to be able to argue with their attorneys. But that we make our position very clear and ask for the meeting. And I think it's probably wouldn't be a bad idea to CC our state and federal legislators, because this is a federal agency, it's the USDA, and Jim McGovern should know about it.
Okay. Yeah.
What about town council? Should we get the town council on that meeting too, or no? It's a legal question at some level, right?
I think the legal issues are pretty clear. I mean, they broke their own guidelines.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to sue them, but
No, we're
we
just
want
saying-
assurance that this is
Yeah.
never going to happen again.
Yeah, cease and desist.
Yeah.
And that, if it is determined that some egg addling program should happen or continue to happen, that's another story, but it has to be very carefully watched, because even other people that signed that egg addling had no idea that this was going on. So it's unfortunate, the way it was handled, the fact that it took us 6-8 months, almost 7 months to get any information from the federal agency was also greatly frustrating.
Yeah, well, that we had to file a FOIA. I mean, that's, not okay.
Yeah.
I think making that clear to Jim McGovern is important.
Okay.
Miriam, I see your hand up. Do you have a comment?
Thanks. So this issue came up also to the Conservation Commission. I believe there had been a complaint submitted to us about it. So I'm really happy that you've all done your due diligence in researching this and getting this information. I think it's helpful to now know what happened.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask if you're going to be planning such a meeting, could I be invited to participate as well? It did occur on wetlands that are under the Concom's jurisdiction. We do have some mission around protecting wildlife as well. So it does fall within our kind of wheelhouse, even though I understand that you're taking the lead, and that's appropriate that you're taking the lead.
I would say that's a select board
Yeah.
decision.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I would think that's fine.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think, given that we spent a fair bit of time at a couple of meetings in the spring, sort of scratching our heads going, what happened? So. now we
Okay,
know.
so Becky, you'll have a letter for us at the next select board meeting on the 17th? Okay,
Yep.
Great. Good.
I mean,
Thank
the
you.
end result of this is we have no guarantee they will agree to meet with us, right? They might just say, hey, look, these idiots out there and whatever. They don't.
I'm sure they'll meet with us. The local people, I think they got pushed around. They were aggressively harassed, from what I understand. So I think they don't feel real good about it either.
Yeah. And I think including our legislators helps. If they
Sure.
refuse a meeting with us, then they don't want to see us taking it to the next step. I'm sure, having anybody calling them from.
And when I did speak with them
Right.
before because our goal was to identify the parties that initiated it, but the local folks agreed to a meeting in the spring right away. So I think we'll get the meeting. We just need to make it clear to the parties involved as well.
Mhm.
That their activities must stop. Okay.
Okay, great. So land use clerk appointment.
We have a new candidate. Her name is Carrie Marshall. She's a recent grad from Westfield State, majoring in environmental science and biology. After the 3 chairs of Planning Board, ZBA, and Concom, Miriam, Deacon, and Chuck met today. They asked me to move ahead and offer this position of land use clerk to Carrie. Carrie happily accepted. She's jumping in right away. She's going to be attending the planning board meeting on Monday, the 10th. Will be in town hall for her first her first taste of town hall on Tuesday, and then again on Thursday. We're still working out times. Miriam and Linda have both will both be working with her to help not indoctrinate, but help her understand
Orientation.
Brainwash.
Training. Brainwash.
So that'll be really helpful, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed that this one really has a long and happy relationship with the town. So
you need a
that is-
motion to appoint, and her full name is
Carrie Marshall.
Carrie Marshall. Do I hear a motion to appoint Carrie Marshall as the new land use clerk?
So moved.
I will second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, we're almost
Thank
at
you.
8 o'clock here. So town administrator updates.
All right, I just wanted to check in with you about whether the 18th is the best date to meet with this planning board about the associate member bylaw. I think Rita will be out the following meeting, so it makes the 18th a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Yeah, I am gone for that. What is that meeting, Becky? That first one in February? I mean, yeah.
February 2nd.
Second, okay. I'm not at the February 22nd meeting. It's February 2nd meeting.
February 2nd meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, so yes, let's meet with the planning board on the 18th. And do we have anything else that was on the agenda for that? We'll be revisiting the opening or lack of, or keeping the town hall closed.
Yep.
And the letter, we'll have the USDA letter.
Yep.
And
And then
the municipal, the MVP grant.
Should we
Whether-
talk about the building committee's request of Mike Vinsky appointed, or we just, did you see that letter Mike wrote recently?
I think we should just, we should have some update around the building committee.
Did you all, I guess one update I have for you guys, if you haven't gotten it, there's a question on the building committee vote. It turns out when Grace looked at the meeting, she noted that Okay, first of all, there was a question whether the building committee had voted on the issue of recommending Mike Vinsky. And it was determined, no, they had not voted. And then it was noted that none of their votes were done as roll call votes. So they haven't done any legal votes for a while, for the few meetings that they've had. So they will be redoing their votes at their next meeting. I called Bob and spoke to him about it. He is, if he has questions, he will follow up with Grace. But because I think what happened, because he didn't have any meetings for that first COVID year at all, he never read all the initial information about the rules of having a remote meeting. So he's addressing that and correcting that.
So you're saying we should wait on discussing the mic thing until they've had a formal vote?
Well, I think if
Or
the
no?
vote matters to the select board, that is a good idea to wait till they do it legally, because right now they don't have a vote.
Okay, so let's wait and see what happens time-wise.
Okay,
Yeah. Do we know when their next meeting is? Do we know? Yeah.
no, part of my town administrator updates are that the window was installed in the elementary school over the holiday break.
Good.
And Steve and I made sure the contractor had access. Bob checked in on their work, and then Steve, they did some cleanup, but Steve did a major cleanup, so you couldn't even tell the building had been entered in a week. So I really want to thank Steve and Bob, Steve especially for all that 2 hours of cleaning, and Bob for getting the project done.
Great.
Steve was particularly careful because it's now being used as a preschool room. And anyway, that's fixed, but it turns out, let me just show you one thing. So this is the old window.
God, that's insane.
And it was what we discovered, the contractor showed us, there was a drain, a gutter above the left side of the window that was shooting out water like a shower and had clearly rotted out that side. The other side was fine. So it really speaks to doing a better job on our maintenance and review of the condition of buildings, because we probably could have saved the store if that had been done. But anyway, it's repaired now, which is the good news. Sorry.
Becky, I was just going to say, was there some discussion about the building committee taking a tour of town buildings at some point in January?
Yes, that was, they picked a date. I have to check my notes, but they were talking about they're going to go around to all the exterior of the buildings and take down notes about their condition and start. Bob suggested that would be a starting point for their inventory.
Okay. All right, any other town administrator updates?
I just wanted to let you know that the easement issue and the swap property is in process. The surveyor is coming up with the exact details needed for the deed. I saw Shane today, and I think they're coming back out to do more work this week. So hopefully someday soon we will actually have a deed for the select board to sign.
And any PFAS update? I know that wasn't on the main agenda, but anything?
None in Shutesbury. I have had, I know they're working in Leverett now.
Oh, okay.
They seem to have, they're circling back around. They're doing a first round in Leverett. They haven't come back to Shutesbury to start researching like they promised they would. But
And
that's,
I noticed that the old parsonage had a well dug, so that's not an issue any longer with using the town
correct.
well.
I had back and forth with the buyer, the contractor who purchased the property last spring and into the summer, and alerted him to the fact that, if at all possible, a well was his best bet to gain independence. Sorry, Rita. Bless you.
We're 6 feet away. We're 6 feet away, don't worry.
So yes, well, he did go through the planning board. They just completed the septic system in the back property. And if you recall, there was only a little pipe running the sewage straight to our well location. So I'm very glad to see the septic is also in. I hope that, I don't know what the results from the well tests have been. I will find out.
But they dug a well
Yeah, they dug a well.
in the front.
In the front, yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
what-
don't know whether I assume they were testing it too.
Yeah, but I'm hoping it's
Yeah.
a good result. Yeah, that would take a burden off the town for sure.
Mhm.
And then,
Okay.
because then they can sell freely and people can control their own situation.
Right. Okay, anything else?
I'm,
You know, oh, go ahead.
Eric?
The only thing I was going to say is that I think we should just make sure we communicate to Bob that, we're waiting on them to appoint Mike, and then we'll do, just so we know, if he doesn't know that, just so he knows that, that's all.
Well, I did talk with him and tell him that vote did not, wasn't.
There wasn't a vote.
Okay,
There
yeah,
was
right.
not a vote. And he said to me, Eric, that means we need to revote it. And I
Okay,
said,
good. Then I don't know that. So now I know it.
That's why I'm adding to it. Adding to the stories to answer your
Right.
question.
Right.
So, yeah, no, he hopefully, yeah, he took it well.
Okay, good. No, that's good.
Yeah. Anything else, any other questions from the select board for me?
I don't think so. Okay, so hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh, we do, just as a reminder, so we have the regional school meeting Saturday morning,
Mm-hmm.
9 o'clock.
I'll be there.
I will be there too.
Can't wait.
Yeah. All right, so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yes, you do. So moved.
Okay, and I will second. All those in favor?
Stalker eye.
Farrell, aye. All right, see you all on
All
Saturday
right,
morning.
thanks a lot. See
Okay,
you
good
all
night.
then.
All right,
Good night.
bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Linda.
Bye, Becky. When did you say Carrie is starting